Welcome, Jackie, to the show, to the podcast. Let's just jump right in. How about you introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Thanks, Jess. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm Jackie Roby. I'm a relationship mindset coach and founder of Inspire Journey Consulting. I empower ambitious women of color and allies to reclaim their time freedom, break free from hustle culture, and write their next chapter to be the main character of their stories.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. How did you end up doing this work? What led you to this?
What a twisty road. Let's see.
I can relate.
Short story, my healing journey.
Yeah.
Long story, I spent my career in sales. And I ended up doing that because it turns out I wasn't really allowed to dream.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that it took me over 40 years to realize. And, it wasn't intentional. It came from the best place from my parents wanting us to secure financial success. But I watched my older sisters, and each time they had a dream of, I want to be an actress. No, you're going to be an entertainment lawyer. That way you get to be in the industry, you make more money, you have that consistency. Oh, I want to do special effects for movies. Nope. You are going to go to school for computer science. Then you're going to have some stability, right? And so by the time it came to me, I just wanted to get a job.
Yeah.
And I fell into sales, and it turns out for me, sales was a trauma response. I was used to being a people pleaser and making sure everybody felt comfortable.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that very well for 20 years.
Yeah.
Until it didn't work anymore.
And that's where the work begins. Yeah. When things stop working. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I found my way to this space and realizing, wow, I wasn't able to dream. And what is it like now to open my eyes and see what's possible?
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. And then to create spaces for women like me who haven't felt allowed to do that and who haven't felt like they belonged.
Yeah. Oh, that's such important work. It's interesting because two things came up when you shared that story. One is I wanted to be a writer. And I was shown the path into advertising because that's the only way you could do it to make money, right? So it's that same kind of storyline. Okay, let's dream smaller, maybe, so that we know we're secure and stable, right? The other thing, I just read a book. It was Oprah and a child psychologist wrote a book called What Happened to You? And instead of asking what's wrong with you, what happened to you? And as you were sharing this story, it's a trauma informed book. But it was what happened to you to where you got there. Well, it was all these life experiences showing you that when we step out and try to dream big and we're cut down or we're told that there's a different path for us, that's what happens to us, which causes the trauma response of choosing the safe path and dreaming smaller if we're dreaming at all, right?
Exactly.
Oh, this is, I share both of those because I think this is so relatable. It's so relatable for women, for sure. I'm sure it's even more relatable for minority women who are dreaming even smaller because of the trauma and the stories that we share and tell. So thank you for doing this work.
Oh, thank you. And I so appreciate that story and the book because I love to read, and that will be on my list.
Someone just told me about it, and I read it this past week. I mean, it was so fascinating. It was really good.
Love that.
What happened to you? Okay, so I can see how this work is so important and so relatable. Before we dive into what you're trying to design and build in that world, what are the challenges that keep, I'd say, a lot of people, half the population, um, if not more, from dreaming?
Mm. So the challenge is that most people, most women say to themselves and
Mm-hmm.
come up with are, I don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a funny thing to me, this concept of time. But I don't have time. I don't have time to think about me. I don't have time to prioritize me. Uh, you'll hear, wouldn't it be nice if I could do that
Mm-hmm.
for me? They'll think it's too late, right? The challenge is this feeling, this perception that it's too late, like we had our chance,
Yeah.
as if dreaming is only for the young.
Yeah.
And how young, right? Because if you think about it, these kids are being told to pick their careers as they go into college. So 17, 18, they have to start thinking about majors when they're choosing
Yeah.
colleges.
Yeah.
Um, but dreaming, is too late for me now. You're going to hear, I have too much on my plate and I
Mm.
can't take on any more. And even though I know something needs to change, I can't do any more than I'm already doing.
Capacity issues. Yeah.
Hmm.
Or capacity mindsets. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And then the feeling, I think, of being judged.
Mm.
And I say this because nobody ever thinks, or I don't know, majority is probably not
Yeah.
thinking they're judging me, they're talking about me, or I'm judging me. We don't think in those terms, right?
Right.
That's more on a
Right.
coach perspective. But they're thinking, what would everybody think if I did this?
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm known for A, B, and C, right? I'm known for sales. I'm known for advertising.
Right.
I couldn't possibly do anything else.
Yeah.
And FYI, it doesn't even have to be career
Right.
that's bringing your dream to life.
Right.
I'm the person who vacations on the beach. I don't climb Kilimanjaro.
No, that's true. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a different aspect of your life where this is playing out. What are
Hmm.
you dreaming about? What are you wanting?
Yeah. And can that be okay?
Yeah.
I have a big group of girlfriends, and we would consistently do trips together. And what I found throughout the years is I wanted different trips,
Mm.
and how difficult that was to even say.
Mm-hmm.
And when I watched other people try to throw in what they wanted,
Mm-hmm.
that was a little different. It was shifted into groupthink. Nope.
Yeah.
And how often are we doing that to each other? Probably unconsciously,
Yeah.
instead of opening possibility.
Yeah. Because it's so ingrained in the culture and how we've grown up, and that idea that our big dreams have no place. It's so ingrained in us that we probably don't do it on a conscious level.
Right? Make everyone comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
your
remember
job.
it's interesting because I think about it a lot in terms of career, because that's the space I spend my time in, right? And shifting, I will say all those narratives you just said were very true for me. I don't have time for this. I don't have the capacity for this. What will everyone I worked with in advertising think if I step into this space, right? Like I still work through that narrative a lot, as
Totally.
I'm sure anyone who jumps careers is working through that narrative a lot. But I also, is interesting because our kids started in a Montessori school, and it was like a lifestyle cultural element, and we loved the school. It just wasn't right for one of our kids. And I remember it was 6 months of like anxiety and agony for me deciding to switch them schools. But it was that voice in my head. What will the other parents think? Because it's a lifestyle shift, right? And it's we have bigger dreams, but we have these narratives that keep us confined in these little boxes and little roles that we think we should be in, right?
100%.
Okay, so you mentioned earlier Dream Factory. Tell me Dream Factory. What is this Dream Factory?
So the Dream Factory is your space of possibility. We really get in there and start to pick open and what that could be, right? Because we think about something and then our brains are trained for negative, right?
Yes.
80% of our thoughts are negative.
Yes, negativity bias. Yes.
Yeah. And so we start to get in our own way and say, oh, but maybe, or, oh, this couldn't happen. And that's not even possible. We throw that away. The Dream Factory doesn't have those statements. So part of it when I work with clients is helping to be their editor.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's redirect. And we tend to even speak our dreams, and I find my clients shoulding on themselves.
Oh, yeah. That's my favorite phrase. Don't should on yourself. Yes. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I know I shouldn't say that. I could have. I would have. This is a no judgment zone, right? The Dream Factory doesn't have judges. We're not hanging out making faces at each other unless they're silly ones. It's getting into the feeling, the details, the wonder and awe of what it could be and where you are and all of the possibilities. And like I said with silliness, sometimes I'll throw in something like, are you riding a unicorn there? Right? Like, who cares?
Right.
Laugh, giggle, be part of this forward momentum of goodness. So we use this space to really get clarity on what they want and bring it to life in a way so that they can feel themselves there and know what it feels like, connect to the emotion of what that is. Because when you feel that, it's like, ooh, I want to go back to that.
Right. I want that. I want more of that. Give me that all the time. And that's motivating, right? That's
exactly. And it anchors them, it brings them forward into creating this.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. So you touched on so many of the pillars of happiness there, like curiosity, compassion, right? If you're judgment free, it's compassionate. Purpose, it's like what drives you and makes you feel good, feeling, using that as a motivator. Authenticity, of course. So like you have all of these elements working together to create a space, the Dream Factory, which I love.
Oh, that feels so good. Hearing that, by the way.
It's like happiness science, like created for this specific piece that is missing from a lot of people's lives, which is dreaming. We think that dreaming's for kids, right? I still cut myself off sometimes from dreaming too big. I'm like, nope, that's too far out there. No, it's not.
Nope.
It wouldn't be in my head and heart if it was too far out there, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so what does a world look like if everyone's dreaming this way? If everyone feels allowed and gives themselves permission to dream big? What does a world of the Dream Factory look like?
Oh my gosh, how fun would that be?
We're dreaming here. We're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So I imagine first of all, these abundant mindsets, right? So everywhere you look, you see possibility. You see possibility for self and for others. And so what that means is you're also really open to inclusion. This type of dreaming creates spaces of equity.
Yes.
So you know that there is enough for you and for everyone and more.
Which makes you want to share it and create it for others. Yes.
Exactly. So you
Yes.
can collaborate in
Mm.
easy ways. You can lift each other up. You can share. It is thoughtfulness. It's respect for others because you're seeing and understanding who they are and what they want and how they live and what makes them happy and what energizes them.
Yeah.
And also what might not, right? Because if it's not part of their possibility, then it's
Right.
okay if it doesn't
And that's
match.
okay. That's right.
Yeah,
And that's okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Uh, there's an intricate system for support. I think about this a lot when it comes to networking. One of the things that I think many entrepreneurs do well that we didn't do well in our corporate life
Mm-hmm.
was building relationships with the idea of possibility,
Mm.
not building relationships with purpose for result.
Right. Which is very different.
Yeah.
It's very different.
And that's what I see. It's possibility relationship building,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Mm-hmm.
our dreams can come together.
Yes.
And how
Yes.
cool would that be?
Yes. Well, it's interesting because I'm even sitting here and I'm thinking, and probably even in a past life when I was in that more negative space and I didn't understand the brain science and I felt stuck and I was on someone else's path, right? The thought of collaborating with someone so closely who could potentially be a competitor, right? Like that would have felt really constricting and really wrong. And I'm sitting here going, the energy here is so wonderful because there is enough for all of us,
Yes.
because there is possibility for collaborating within different spheres. And I think it is that mindset shift that it's not just about me and my dreams. When I understand what my dreams are, I want everyone else to be dreaming like that too. And I want to be working with other people, whatever capacity I can, to help them dream bigger and help them bring that to life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So much. Yes. And I think one of the things that came to mind is it's not a utopia, right? I'm a Pollyanna thinker, but it's not a utopia.
Yeah,
We're all going to have different people we connect with and people we don't.
right,
But the difference is not saying ugh
right,
to the
right,
ones that we don't,
right,
right? Instead, going, okay, that's not a match. Cool.
right,
But you're just buzzing along your way to the ones that are.
right. I love it. Or, the whole idea that, you said it earlier, in networking, when it was corporate, it was all about the sale or the results. And I found that in the entrepreneurial space, which feels so much safer to me,
Mm-hmm.
it is, I understand you want this help and I could provide this help to you, but this isn't a good fit. And so instead of forcing that relationship to happen, we go, I'm going to send you Jackie's way because I actually think you and Jackie would be a really good fit and that's what could serve you. And so I think it's that notion of it's the abundance versus scarcity, right? It's instead of I need everything that comes my way, it's not everything is for me, but I can pass that along. I can help people on their journeys, whether or not they're a client, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I think there's something that's so special about that. And sometimes, it can come from this, like you said, that scarcity, that fear. But what if it's an empowered choice,
Yes. Yes.
right? Like it doesn't feel right for me.
Right.
But that doesn't mean anything for the person in front of you or for
Right.
someone else that you could support. Like, look at the 2 people you're helping with that. And
Yeah.
you're also, actually 3, you're helping
3, you're helping
yourself.
you. Yes.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
saying no.
Yeah. Oh man, the word no. I mean, so much of my work is around boundaries too, right? Boundaries in the office. And I think for dreams to happen, for big dreams to happen, and even for us to step into and allow ourselves, give ourselves permission to dream, there has to be a lot of boundary setting. Because like I've learned I've had to stop letting in every voice as a voice that mattered, right? Because that's where your dreams are made small. And I don't think we are always empowered to say no and hold those boundaries. So I love that you said it does mean saying no. Saying no is so important for our dreams.
I love how you're referencing boundaries and the voices coming at you. For me, that has been such a tough lesson. I have seen relationships for so long through rose-colored glasses as a result of my own trauma. And it's changed throughout the years. I heal more, I see more. Doesn't stop it from being painful each time.
Right. Absolutely.
But what I've learned in this context is who you get to share your dreams with is important. And not everyone is going to hold them in the way that they deserve to be held.
Yes. Yes.
And that's part of what makes the Dream Factory and the containers that I create so special is it is a safe, encouraging space, right? And so if we imagine this destiny of everyone living in the Dream Factory and really bubbling in that way and percolating in that way, you're more likely to be able to share openly. You're more likely to have safe spaces to discuss your dream and bring it to life because you're going to be received with excitement and enthusiasm. And other people's doubts won't become your doubts because they're not going to reflect that. They're going to be excited.
Right. I was doing some work a couple of years ago, and the phrase that was used a lot was that you got to find your partners in believing. Has stuck with me so much because, you know, you really do have to find, you can have all the other people in your life that you want in your life, but certain dreams demand you surround yourself with partners and people who believe in you and who will help you live into that dream without doubt. Right?
I love that.
So that future world, we're partners in believing for each other.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, honestly, we could do that now.
Oh, I know. Well, we should. And that's what we're going to get to. That's what we're going to get to. How do we go from the climate of here today where there's pockets of this work that is being done? I think a lot of it is it's just new. We haven't ever reflected as a culture or a society to go, why aren't we doing this? Or if we have, it's been a long time since we have. So how do we go from not dreaming to a world where everyone dreams?
Well, my strategy to get us there is to bring in more and more of these amazing, empowered women, to bring in women of color, to bring in allies, to bring in people in executive roles in corporations on their own, right? I want to get them out of their everyday space and into this one to create that change, because when you start to see it, you want to see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then how does it shift? I would love to see organizations say, this is important for everyone. here.
Yes.
Because they can be their best, we can be our best.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's something that we can teach in schools.
Yes. You're speaking my language here. I love this. Yes.
And bring that to lessons. I think the school systems come such a long way in what they're bringing in. And this is just that next layer of possibility and creating change in your mindset
Mm-hmm.
so that you can see more and be more.
Yeah.
I know the power of a ripple effect. And I see that happening. And I've watched it with my clients. And when they even bring it to their partners, and then their partners come in,
Mm-hmm.
and then both of them come in together as couples, which has been incredible. And watching them grow in that space. Somebody the other day asked if they could bring the whole family in.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Because when you want it, you want everyone around you to have it and feel it too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So if we start to think that way, I mean, that's the ripple effect we want to see. That's how we grow. The other aspect, if we think about how this world has changed, wellness has taken over as a buzzword, yes.
Yes.
And what I think is really positive, though, is that there's so much scientific research. There is the Global Wellness Institute that brings us so much data that's become so huge and such a great resource. We see the connection, right? So there's more people talking about it in more ways.
Yeah.
There's still naysayers, right? But to me, that almost seems silly. Like that feels like a waste of energy
It does.
instead of opening your mind to learning something.
Yeah.
And seeing how it could work.
Yes. Well, it's so interesting because that's where, I think there are quite a few of us that are now in this space where we're going, there's all this research, there's all this evidence that has come to percolate in the last 30 years, thanks to, positive psychology and really studying this. And so much of it has been offered up to us as individual practices. And I think, and where I'm spending so much of my time in my work is, yes, we need to practice these things and take care of ourselves in these ways as individuals. But also, we need to start creating societal change on a systematic level to integrate what we know works for individuals, because we know there's a happiness contagion. We know that when you have positive energy, it spreads and it creates more engagement and it creates more impact. So how can we use all this research to not only design for my own personal flourishing, not only allow me to dream big, but how can we do it to change the systems, like you said, in corporate America, in schools, to design a world where this just is embedded so that everyone can step into it.
I am so grateful for the work that you do, honestly, because that is this overarching way to change every part of our life, right? I almost look at this like a tag team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but it is, because it starts with the person. It has to.
But I mean, it's with the person, and it's like if I can impact how they're being at home and how they show up at work, and if you can impact how they're received at work and how everyone else comes together, right? Like how do we create that
It's
full
an ecosystem.
system?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it. Well, I love it too, because it is so parallel to the work I do. And I talk about happy leaders and happy leadership. And really what happy leaders do is they have learned themselves how to dream, how to lead and live from a place of happiness and fulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to be a happy leader, that means understanding how your sphere of influence can be impacted by that. So it is what you're saying. It is bringing the partner in with you. It is bringing the family in with you. It is bringing your team at work or the classroom at school. It is every single one of us is a leader, right?
Yes.
Because we all have a sphere of influence. So how can we use that influence in a positive way? How can we use that influence to dream big?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you just lit something up inside of me when you spoke about all of us having a sphere of influence. This is something that has not really, I think, for most people, I don't think they've owned that. I don't
Yeah.
think they see that power that's
Yeah,
there.
I agree. Yes.
Right? We tend
Yes.
to make ourselves small, and especially as women, we tend to
Especially
make
women.
ourselves
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
No, I don't have this title. No, I don't have this much money. No, I don't do this. I'm not the president of this association. I only show up to a meeting. I don't, whatever it is.
Right.
Are you kidding?
Right.
You have a voice.
You have a voice. And you have people who listen to you. And you have people who you impact without even knowing it.
Mhm.
That barista that you go and talk to 5 mornings a week, you better believe you influence how they show up after you leave.
Mhm.
And that can either be a really daunting thing, or if you embrace that, that's a really empowering thing to understand that how the energy you take into the world impacts the world. It
Mhm.
impacts every single person you come into contact with.
100%. And honestly, it is because of that that I made my way into what I'm doing now. Because I heard from my sphere of influence
Yeah.
all the way down to the people on the internet that I've never met,
Right.
what I'm bringing to their lives.
Yeah.
So wherever that sphere extended to, the feedback was, here's your gift.
Yes.
And
Yes.
me tapping into my intuition and going, oh, fact.
Yes. That is
That,
my gift. Yes.
yeah, and that feels aligned. So,
Yes. And what I love about your work and the dreaming and it's that so many of us have walked through a majority or are still walking through our lives not understanding, one, that we have a gift, or two, what that gift is.
right.
And no matter how late in life it is, when you finally come to see the gift and the light that's inside of you and you step into that power, right? That's where I'm dreaming all the time these days. I still shut myself down a little, but that's where your power comes from.
Yeah. And you start to recognize what environments feel good and what aren't serving you.
Right. Right.
You have that permission slip to say no. You're able to set firmer boundaries because
Yes.
you are more excited about life and protecting your happy one.
Yes. 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 Well, you said it becomes much more aligned. And when you're aligned, it's so much easier to make decisions quicker and with clarity and to not doubt yourself once they're made. It's
Mhm.
so much easier to know when you're in spaces that are energy giving or energy draining. It's so much easier to find your people and your partners and believing. And it feels like a lot if you're not in that space. But once you figure out and tap into that light inside you, that dream inside you, it really does. everything feels easier because there's not this resistance around how you should be showing up in the world. You know how you're supposed to be showing up in the world as your gift, as your light.
Exactly. Exactly. And I want to say, when we think about the challenges around this, I have mentioned trauma a few times, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I'm no stranger to challenge. And the reason that so much of this even came to be for me was from falling into a deep depression, learning how to manage that, how to manage anxiety that at the time was going into severe panic attacks,
Yep.
and living with complex post traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And so, with those three things, staying in a space of negativity was very much not serving me. It was debilitating.
Yeah.
And at one point had me questioning what was real and what wasn't. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
So every single day, I choose my mental health and wellness. And part of that makes it even better is possibility.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So no, it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Absolutely.
And it's worth
It is
it.
work. It is work.
Yeah.
But not doing the work, how is that serving you?
Right. Right.
I think we're a society that's scared of doing the work because there is so much trauma so deeply embedded into our culture, into our personal lives. It is scary to step in and do the work. And so we
Yeah.
avoid it because that's our trauma response, right? Our trauma response is to disassociate, to flee, to fight, right? Doing the work is reflecting and going, this is my truth. What am I going to do with that knowledge? And knowing you have a choice on what you can do. You can stay small, you can dream big. You can stay stuck, you can create action. You can see the scarcity of the world, or you can see the abundance and the opportunity and the possibility and the wonder.
And I love how you're bringing that to light. I think our choices are one of the things that people get so stuck on, feeling like they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You always have a choice, and indecision is a choice.
Absolutely.
Right?
And
Staying
it's a choice
still
a
is a
lot
choice.
of people make.
Yes.
A lot of the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Knowing what you and I know about how the brain works, it's easier for our brain to stay the same.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's easier for our negative noise to take over and say no and shut this down. And I find it fascinating because not only is it a society of not doing the work, but it's a society of finding reasons to say no.
Yes. Yes.
Because think of it this way. If I were to say, it's simple, but not easy, you have to do the work. Ugh, I don't want to work anymore. Or it's simple, it's not easy, and it can be really playful. I don't have time to play.
Right.
See, we are always, and I've heard all of it.
Right. Right.
I'm sure you have too.
Right. Yeah.
We're always finding a reason to say no.
Yeah.
To shift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that seems counterintuitive, right? Wouldn't you think that we would run towards joy, would run towards a dream coming true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead, we're happier to be stuck. I have this image of like a tire in the mud, like in my cousin
Yeah.
Biddy, you know, stuck.
Yes. But yes. Yeah. It's interesting because I go back and um, in advertising, I had to take a class before, like when I was in portfolio school. And it was a class that, I wasn't 100% sure of because I didn't like getting up in front of people and doing all the things. But we had to take an improv class because it was about creativity and possibility, right? And if you're going into advertising, they want you to get really creative with how you're going to sell stuff to everyone. But I have always carried with me the idea of, instead of closing down possibility with no or with an excuse, you can choose to say yes and, right? If you always take what the universe and the world is putting in front of you, and instead of saying no and running and shutting down because of your negativity bias, because it's change and it's hard, you say yes and you figure out how to move forward with that. Right? That's improv. But that's also living in a world of possibility.
100%.
Okay, so what can our listeners do? There's a lot. We've thrown a lot of goodness at them. I've loved this. What can our listeners do today, this week, to start activating that dream factory, that world of possibility for themselves? What's something that, no matter how little time people have or capacity, they can take a first step somehow?
Really, first simple step. Think about what you want. And what's likely going to come up is what you don't want.
Yes, true.
Right? However, take note of it. Maybe even write it down, put it in a note on your phone, however you're capturing voice note. And then transform that statement into what you actually want. What we don't want is a clue. It's important information. However, what tends to happen is we stay there. Let's not stay there. Let's shift it into what it could be.
I love that. So let's do an example. I'm trying to think of what I want. And I don't want to be working 50 hours a week at a dead-end job is all that's going through my head. How do I flip that?
So then maybe you ask yourself the question, do I want to be working 40 hours a week?
Yeah.
Is that it? Do I want to be working 20 hours a week? Do I want to be, if I'm only working 20 hours, what would I do in my spare time? Go-kart racing.
Right. Well, even okay, so then you have the time, but you also have the, what makes me think this is a dead-end job? What would a job that wasn't a dead-end job look like? Like I can see how this starts going. But I think it's very practical, I don't want to be sitting in carpool lanes, 2 hours a day. Okay, that's a good, I don't want. So what do you want instead? Well, I want to be spending time one-on-one with the kids. Okay, how can we design our lives for that instead of the carpooling? Like that's where your power is saying, here's where I'm stuck and what I don't want. How do I flip that to figure out what I want so that I can start dreaming and designing for it?
Exactly.
Oh, exactly. I love it. Okay, we're going to wrap up here. But before we do, how can people connect, find you, learn more about the work you're doing, all of that fun stuff?
Yeah. So I am visible on Instagram and LinkedIn the most. So Instagram at Inspired Journey Consulting.
Okay. Love it.
And stay connected that way. I'll have some workshops coming up that I'd love to have people involved in.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much, one, for coming on here and sharing the amazing work you do with our listeners, inspiring them, bringing joy and energy into my day today. But thank you for taking your experience and your lessons and turning them into a positive energy that really impacts and influences the people that you come into contact with, because your gift and your light, I can feel it through the screen, and I know the impact it has to have on people.
Thank you so much. That just touches my heart. And if I may, I'd also just love to put forth a magic moments strategy session for anybody listening. It's 45 minutes. We'll talk through the negative noise that's happening and ways to quiet the nonsense.
That is awesome. Okay, so we'll put a link to schedule that or to reach out about that in the podcast notes as well.
Thank you for honoring me with those beautiful words.
Well, thank you for giving your time and energy to us today. And everyone go and follow Jackie and stay on top of the work she's doing. But more importantly, make time to dream for yourselves and for your life.